Harry or William? Harry or the palace? Harry and Meghan or the royal family? The prince or the press? Do you already feel yourself leaning towards somewhere? Notice that it's not whether your answer is right, just how quickly an answer began to form. Most of us like to think our opinions come after careful reasoning. We gather information, we weigh up the evidence, then we decide. But human beings don't encounter information in a vacuum. We bring experience, memory, values, loyalties, fear, assumptions, and identities of our own. The identity maze begins with a simple observation. We don't disagree and choose sides only because we possess different information. We can look at the same event and construct very different meanings from it. Few contemporary public figures demonstrate that as vividly as Prince Harry. To some, Harry protected his wife and children from a system he believed had failed them. To others, he abandoned his responsibilities and repeatedly attacked the family and institution that gave him his position. And lying between those two interpretations are countless others. This video will not tell you which one to choose. Instead, we'll follow what can actually be established about Harry's public life. We'll distinguish events from interpretations, and occasionally we'll turn the lens away from Harry and towards ourselves. Because maybe the most revealing part of this story isn't what we think about Prince Harry, but how we decided what we think about him. Most people spend years working out where they belong. Harry was born into an answer: family, country, monarchy, and history. His grandmother was Queen Elizabeth II. His father would become king. His older brother, William, was born on the direct path to the throne. Harry wasn't. He possessed extraordinary status, but a less clearly defined destination. Publicly, his identity was relational, almost from birth. Diana's younger son, Charles's second son, William's younger brother, the prince behind the future king. The chronology of Prince Harry's public life therefore begins with an asymmetry. William's constitutional destination was clear. Harry, on the other hand, would eventually have to find a purpose within or beyond the position he inherited. Then, in 1997, everything changes. Prince Harry is 12 when his mother, Diana, Princess of Wales, dies. At her funeral, Harry walks behind his mother's coffin alongside his brother William, his father Charles, his grandfather Prince Philip, and his uncle Earl Spencer. Millions watch, and the image becomes part of modern royal history. 20 years later, in 2017, Prince Harry gave two reflections on that war. Both are worth hearing alongside each other. In one interview, he said he did not think a child should have been asked to do it. Later that year, reflecting on the funeral again, he said he was glad he had been part of the procession. Together, those statements resist a neat conclusion. But what they do highlight is that the same person can look back on one event and hold more than one feeling about it. Perhaps we should remember that before trying to explain what the funeral did to Harry. We can observe the event. We can hear what Prince Harry later said. But his complete internal experience belongs to him, and only he really knows what the experience did to him. However, what we can see is that from an early age, private family experience and public duty occupied the same space. Prince Harry's grief was personal, the ceremony was public, and cameras were present for both. And that presents us with our first mirror. Once we know someone's history, it becomes so easy for us to begin using it to explain everything they do next. So when Harry later talks about photographers, protection, or his family, Do we examine the circumstances in front of us? Or have we already decided the explanation from what happened decades earlier? Our past matters. We can't escape that. But when does understanding someone's past become assuming we understand the person? As Harry enters adulthood, his public identity changes. The mischievous boy becomes the tabloid prince. Nightclubs, drinking, recklessness, and in 2005, a serious scandal. Prince Harry attends a fancy dress party wearing a Nazi-themed costume with a swastika armband. He apologizes, describing it as a poor choice. No philosophical framework is needed to soften that event. It was his decision, and it brought widespread criticism. But what follows is interesting for another reason. Public identities rarely stay still, and soon another Harry begins to emerge. Captain Wales. Prince Harry spends 10 years in the British Armed Forces and completes 2 operational tours in Afghanistan. The royal family's current biography confirms both, which shows they still view him as part of the family. The army offers Harry a different kind of structure. Training, rank, responsibility, a unit. In the chronology of Prince Harry's public life, this can be seen as a shift from belonging primarily through birth to belonging partly through participation and service. But even there, being Prince Harry changes the conditions. During his first Afghanistan deployment, British media initially agreed not to report his presence for security reasons. When the deployment becomes known internationally, the Ministry of Defence ends his tour early because the publicity increases the risk to Harry and those serving alongside him. The attempt to be another soldier collides with the reality that he isn't simply another soldier. His inherited identity follows him into the uniform. And while Prince Harry is still serving in the army, another part of that identity begins taking shape. After attending the Warrior Games in the United States in 2013, he is inspired to create an international sporting event for wounded, injured, and sick service personnel. The first Invictus Games take place in London in 2014. Prince Harry leaves the army the following year. Invictus then gives his connection to the military community somewhere to continue. This matters because Invictus survives almost every later change in Prince Harry's public life. The working royal, the non-working royal, leaving Britain, coming to America, family conflict, court cases. Despite all of these, Invictus remains. Now let's consider something about judgment. The Prince Harry wearing the offensive costume is real. The soldier Prince Harry is real. The founder of Invictus, Prince Harry, is real. Which one tells us who he really is? Maybe they all provide information, and maybe none is sufficient alone. At the Identity Maze, we describe identity as an evolving story shaped by experience, belief, memory, behavior, and reflection. Yet we often do something very different when judging people. Someone we dislike can become permanently represented by their worst act, while someone we admire is provided the room for growth, context, and contradiction. So ask yourself, how much change do you allow in someone once you think you know who they are? By the middle of 2010, Prince Harry's public image has changed dramatically. Soldier, veterans advocate, campaigner, and accessible younger royal. Then Meghan Markle enters the story. And another theme becomes increasingly visible: protection. In November 2016, Kensington Palace issues a rare direct statement through Prince Harry's communications secretary. It condemns the harassment surrounding Meghan Markle. It refers to racial undertones in some commentary as well as sexism and racism on social media. And it says Prince Harry is worried about Meghan's safety. That distinction is important. We do not have to infer that Harry was concerned about protection. The statement tells us he was. But that fact still doesn't give us access to every motive behind every later decision. When we at the Identity Maze examine fear, we treat it as a signal of perceived danger or uncertainty. A signal can deserve attention. It's not automatically proof of every conclusion we draw from it. The question is not simply, is fear rational or irrational? The more useful question is, what happens after we feel it? Do we investigate? Do we learn? Do we retreat? Do we attack? Do we reach for certainty or assurance before the evidence is complete? Then comes 2018. For a moment, Harry's different identities appear unusually compatible. Prince, husband, veteran advocate, Commonwealth figure, working royal, son, brother. In November 2018, YouGov recorded 77% positive opinion of Prince Harry among its British respondents. In hindsight, this period can look like a false summit, not because we know what was happening privately, but because the public story appears briefly settled before becoming deeply contested. And watch what popularity does to interpretation. When we like someone, uncertainty can produce generosity. There must be more to the story. Let's wait. Nobody's perfect. When we dislike someone, the same doubt can produce suspicion. I knew it. This proves everything. Now here's a warning we all should take seriously. Watch out for that instinct, not only in newspaper coverage, but also in yourself. By 2019, public story has changed once again. During ITV's Harry and Meghan An African Journey, Prince Harry speaks openly about the continuing effect of media attention. He says camera flashes can remind him of the worst parts of his mother's life. Asked about William, he says the brothers are on different paths. And when speaking about his own family, Harry explicitly connects his determination to protect them, bearing in mind what happened to his mother Diana, saying he does not want a repeat of the past. We don't need to invent the Diana Princess of Wales connection. Harry makes it. But his statement can still produce different interpretations. One person hears, a son recognizes danger and refuses to repeat history. Another hears, painful past is being used to interpret a very different present. Same statement, different meaning. Here at the Identity Maze, we define perspective as a viewpoint shaped by experience, belief, and interpretation. Perspective influences what becomes visible. It's not reality itself. Then comes January 2020. Prince Harry and his wife Meghan announced that they want to step back as senior members of the royal family and focus on building a more independent life. Queen Elizabeth publicly says the family would have preferred them to remain full-time working royals, but respects their wish for greater independence. The eventual arrangement requires Prince Harry and Meghan to step back from royal duties, included Harry's official military appointments. In February 2021, Buckingham Palace confirms that Harry and Meghan will no longer be working members of the royal family, while explicitly saying they remain loved members of the family. That distinction matters. Institutional membership and family membership are not identical, but public debate prefers cleaner categories. Freedom or betrayal, protection or abandonment, victim or aggressor, Sussex or Windsor. Binary stories do something very useful for the human mind. They reduce uncertainty. Here at the Identity Maze, we perceive certainty as a feeling and not evidence in itself. and uncertainty we view as a place where curiosity can begin. Think about a serious disagreement in your own family. Two people can describe the same argument. Both can sincerely remember what happened. Both can explain why they behaved as they did. And somehow, the stories barely resemble each other. Sometimes one account is demonstrably wrong. Facts matter, but sometimes much of the disagreement lies in the meaning attached to those facts. So when you think about Prince Harry leaving working royal life, notice the first word your mind supplies. Escape, betrayal, protection, privilege, courage, self-interest. Don't change the answer, just examine it. What made that word feel obvious? After leaving working royal life, Harry changes his relationship with publicity. For most of his life, other people have helped construct the public version of Prince Harry. Photographers, royal correspondents, editors, palace communications teams, biographers, commentators. Now Prince Harry begins constructing his own version more directly. In the 2021 Oprah interview, Prince Harry and Meghan make serious allegations about their royal experience, including discussions involving race and failures of support. Buckingham Palace responds that the issues raised are concerning, while saying that some recollections may vary. That phrase captures something larger than a royal disagreement. Now the conflict is partly about memory, meaning, interpretation. What happened? What was intended? What was understood? Whose account carries greater weight? Then comes the Netflix series. Then Spare. Prince Harry moves from being primarily the subject of other people's narratives to becoming one of the principal authors of his own. The title Spare takes his position as the younger son of the heir and turns it into the organizing metaphor of his account. But self-authorship creates a paradox. The more Prince Harry explains his conflict with the institution, the more that conflict becomes part of the public identity through which people understand him. This isn't uniquely royal. Someone misunderstands you. You explain. They interpret the explanation differently, so you explain again. Eventually, the relationship becomes a dispute over whose version of the relationship is legitimate. The identity maze, we separate two things that often get merged: observation and interpretation. An observation concerns what can be established. An interpretation is the meaning we assign to it. Harry published Spare. That's observation. One reader interprets it as self-definition, another as public betrayal. Harry gave interviews about his family. That's observation. One person hears testimony, another hears grievance. The behavior is observable. Its meaning is contested. And then something happens that allows at least some disputes to be tested differently. The conflict moves to the courts. Prince Harry has pursued several legal actions involving British newspaper publishers, and the results matter precisely because they are mixed. In 2023, he won damages from Mirror Group newspapers after the High Court found unlawful information gathering in his case. In January 2025, News Group newspapers settled another case, issued an apology, and agreed to pay substantial damages. But in July 2026, Prince Harry and 6 other claimants lost their case against Associated Newspapers, publisher of the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday. The High Court found that they had not sufficiently proved their allegations of unlawful information gathering. In August, the claimants were ordered to make an interim payment of over £9.5 million towards Associated Newspapers' legal costs. Look at what that does for the simple versions of the story. One version says, Prince Harry's concerns about the press were all imagined. The successful cases make that difficult to sustain. The other version, Harry's allegations against the press were all proved. The Associated Newspaper's judgment makes that impossible to uphold. Reality refuses both extremes, and that is exactly where intellectual humility becomes useful, not as indecision, but as the willingness to let evidence complicate the story we preferred. Our principle here at the Identity Maze is simple. Feelings matter, but feelings and certainty aren't substitutes for evidence. Nor does evidence necessarily give us permission to generalize beyond what it actually proves. Now turn the lens around and consider this. When evidence supports a person you already favor, how much weight do you give it? When evidence challenges them, do you give it the same weight? And when your own side loses a point, do you update the story or simply invent a reason why that piece of evidence doesn't count? In February 2024, after King Charles's cancer diagnosis was announced, Prince Harry flies from California to Britain and meets his father. The relationship between son and institution remains complicated. So does Prince Harry's dispute over security. In May 2025, Prince Harry loses his Court of Appeal challenge over arrangements for his police protection in Britain. After the ruling, he publicly says he wants reconciliation with his family. Again, family and institution overlap, but they are not identical. Someone can reject a professional structure without ceasing to be a son. Someone can criticize relatives publicly and still want a relationship with them. Someone can desire reconciliation without agreeing that the original dispute has been resolved. Ordinary families contain contradictions like these every day. Being part of the monarchy simply places them under a brighter light. And as of the 22nd of August, 2026, the story is moving again. Reuters reports Prince Harry and Meghan plan to return to Britain sometime this month with Archie and Lilibet for an extended period, with the children due to attend school in the UK. The reports say they will remain non-working royals and will not live in a royal residence. That wording matters. At the time this video is being produced, this is a reported and planned return. It's not yet a completed chapter, which gives the story an unusually appropriate ending. Harry may be coming back, without going back to the role he left. He's connected, without being institutionally restored. Royal by birth, without returning as a working royal. The man whose public identity was once condensed into a single word, spared, now occupies a position for which monarchy offers no simple category, son. But not servant of the institution, prince. But not working royal, British, and transatlantic, an insider by birth, who has also chosen life outside the working institution. Perhaps that feels uncomfortable because categories are comfortable. Inside, outside, loyal, disloyal, victim, villain. They tell us what something is, but people have an irritating habit of being more complicated than the boxes we build for them to fit into. We began with a question. Whose side are you on? You may still have an answer. Maybe this video changed it. Maybe it didn't. We at the Identity Maze aren't asking you to surrender your judgment. Judgment is sometimes necessary. We know. Behavior matters. Evidence matters. And consequences matter. Our invitation is different. Are you willing to examine how your judgment was assembled? Just look at the versions of Prince Harry we've encountered in this video. The child born into royalty, a grieving son, a young man capable of a deeply offensive decision, a soldier, a veteran advocate, one of Britain's most popular royals, a husband defending his wife, a working prince. a departing royal, a memoirist, a litigant who has both won and lost major cases, a son who says he wants reconciliation, a man now planning to bring his family back to the country he left. Which one of them is Prince Harry? They all belong to the public record. None of them alone is the whole person. And that may reveal something about the way we judge everybody. We observe fragments of behavior, of mistakes, of successes, and we hear words or partial statements. Then we add interpretation. We connect those fragments to our existing beliefs, and eventually we stop saying, "This is just something this person did," and begin saying, "This is who this person is." Here at the Identity Maze, we describe belief as part of an architecture that consists of our experiences, our memories, our values, our emotions, our knowledge, and the assumptions we make. All of them are interacting beneath the conclusions that feel obvious to us. Now, don't get us wrong. The goal isn't to escape that architecture. We couldn't, even if we tried. The goal is for us to notice it. We need to pause before jumping to certainty. We must try to separate what we observed from what we inferred. We must be willing to allow evidence to disrupt what is often a more comfortable conclusion. And we must remember that even when we don't approve of everything a person did, we mustn't make that cloud our understanding of that person or inhibit our willingness to try and understand that person. So don't leave with a verdict on Prince Harry. You can make that judgment for yourself. Leave with something harder. The next time somebody disappoints you, angers you, or confirms everything you thought you knew about them, pause and then ask, when belonging requires me to choose a side, what part of the other person am I choosing not to see? Welcome to the Identity Maze.